Right, so this is Vibe Check, my idea of connecting with local, let's say, but maybe not, local builders who I know in Barcelona and beyond. And Mike is someone well, kind of friend. We work in the same place, and I've been following Townspot for I don't know, a couple of years, maybe. I came across Townspot when I was just in the co-working, and he was talking about his product that he was building, and it's kind of progressed and progressed. And I've definitely watched, or after chatting with Mike, about his. At that point, he had a developer, I think, and he was trying to build out the platform. And then as the technology's moved on or moved forward, he's kind of ridden the wave, they call it surf the wave as that's happened. So, and I always find it really interesting speaking to Mike about his experiences. So, the way we're gonna work this, you obviously explained a bit about you are Mike, and then I'll try and have a bit of an agenda in terms of um, how you ended up here, in the sense, bit of history. Then talk about Townspot, why you built it in the first place, or well, and certainly what it was compared to what it is now. And then we'll kind of go with it for the rest of it. The audience um at the moment, oh sorry, I when in terms of the community, there's quite a lot of builders in there, so I think they will be super interested in like what's your setup? Do you use Cursor, Codex? How does that look? There's also a good chunk of let's say bootstrappers in there who'd be interested. How do you make money? What's failed? What success have you had? What's your current kind of plan? So we'll kind of riff on that type of stuff. But for the start, let's introduce yourself and talk about how you ended up here, and then I'll take it from there. So I'm very much thank you for giving up some of your time to talk about it.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. I'm always happy to talk about building, tech, design, town spot, all those kind of things. They really align with my passions. So to introduce myself, I'm Mike G. I born in England in the north, similar to Matt. So that's why we have similar accents. I think that's how we first bonded. Yeah, and then I lived in England for a long, long time until I came to Barcelona in 2020. I used to design buildings, so I studied architecture at university, and so I was interested in physical design. And then in 2015, moved across to the tech industry, and the whole reason for that is because I was interested in how the new digital world was shaping the world around us, even more so today. And specifically, I'm always been really interested in how digital products can facilitate real world connection and how it can sort of connect us more to the real world. And in short, that's where Townspots come from. There's a bit more of a story behind that. And I've done an hour long podcast on that, so I could send a link if you actually want to know about that more. But essentially, the problem space which I've picked and I've been working on since 2019 is trying to do exactly that, connect you to where you live and act as a really good onboarding experience to your new neighborhood and show you what's happening and essentially elicit like an explosion of culture in society and get us away from our screens and into the real world. So that's sort of on the town spot side. And then on the building side, like I'm super, super passionate about technology. I think from 2015, when I entered into the industry, there were a lot more I'd call them like old heads around in terms of like they had the real passion of technology and they're real technologists. And then obviously the money came into the industry, so a lot of people were joining just for the money. But it's always really awesome to connect with communities like this, where we're actually just like tinkering and really passionate about tech, and we're not just here just to rake in the salary. And I've always been, even though I'm a designer, I'd say I'm T-shaped and deep in the UX design part. Um, I've always had an interest in code. I've always been chomping at the bit to learn, but the on-ramp used to be like this, or maybe like this, and you'd end up down here at some point on a Stack Overflow thread somewhere. And I tried to code about 3 times and failed. And I was even learning PHP from a book in like 2015 and stuff like that. And then built my own SoundCloud powered radio station in 2016, which is still online somewhere. But I just basically ripped the code from another popular platform And yeah, so just sort of always did that, but then always didn't have enough time to learn coding properly or enough incentive because I had to design. I've worked across I've mainly tried to work in social impact. So I worked at an agency to start off with, which if anybody's worked at an agency, a digital agency, it's very smash and grab. So you go in, you do design something beautiful, and then you run away. So I was always interested about the outcomes of a project that you were doing. So then worked at an education company where you literally designed products in London and would go to the countryside in Kenya and test with teachers in schools and things like that. So and then in a consultancy called ThoughtWorks, which is really engineering focused and stuff. So I've got a broad range of experience before I started to go full time on Townspot. And that's a good context for some of the stuff that I'll talk about as well, because I think that has really helped with the past 2 years. As Matt has said, I've been riding this technological wave, surfing it, whilst learning to kite surf as well at the same time, literally. And that background and all that context and all the stuff that I absorbed and was exposed to in London, I was 8 years in London, has really helped me understand how to do things properly, and not just be controlled by a lot of the models at the moment. Like I think it's clear now that you have to understand architecture really well, like technical architecture, not the building architecture, and also like databases and performance and security and all these things, that are really important to be aware of. So I'm really grateful for that experience, building my career in London and then escaping to Barcelona in the sun. So
Amazing. No, well, yeah, I mean that's partly the reason why I'm here for sure. Okay, so for a bit of context, why don't you share your screen just to show like what Townspot is?
okay,
Um, and then we can go back to like, okay, what was it at the start? Because I always find that bit's super interesting as well, just that people understand like, okay, what are we talking about when we say Townspot?
sure, yeah.
Um,
So you want
and
to,
then
yeah, because I've got a load of notes and stuff on building in general and stuff, but also,
literally just like 2 minutes, like this
oh,
is what Townspot is, this is what you can do. And then we'll, you can remove the share screen, but just get a bit of context.
yeah, let me just pop it up. You think it would be on my screen the whole time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I always have like happyoperators.com, just like a pin. So if I'm get stuck, I just like, yeah, this is what we do.
It's the entire screen. Okay, so yeah, Townspot in essence is a hyperlocal event listings platform with a mission to connect you to where you live, feel part of where you live, and it's this is just the Spanish one. So actually, in fact, let's go full Catalan, and then so it's only live in Poblenou at the moment in Barcelona, but in the UK it's live in a few different neighborhoods. Got about 1,500 users, and this 83 active this week is literally um, real people, interacting with the apps. So it's become a massive platform, not just an app. It started as a WhatsApp newsletter in one neighborhood in London, and then once I click through, you'll see that the design language from that WhatsApp newsletter, I've kept it. So it's very simple. People compare it to like Craigslist in the US, or sort of, yeah, just a really simple text-based stuff. And then off the back of these calendars, because they're essentially hyperlocal calendars, we have this sort of Substack style automated local newsletters. So it's the design constraint is all about hyperlocality. And so I'll show you that in a minute. But the user experience is you get here and you see it says welcome to Probably Know. Again, it's like, yes, this is a what's on guide at the essence, but it's trying to sell a sense of belonging. So you're feeling like you're belonging in an area. And so you can drop your email in there, or you can explore Probably Know without subscribing. And essentially, it looks like this. I know a lot of people have said it looks like Trello or anything like that, but it's essentially making sure that you've got this calendar of what's happening in your neighborhood, and these are live events that are happening in Probably Know this week. And you've got filters at the top. You can click in. So it's super, super simple at the moment. You can add it to your calendar. You can see where it is. You can essentially see the links of where it is. And then it's got the map. So each calendar is essentially. I mentioned that I did architecture, so I'm interested in this concept called digital placemaking, which I don't know if is a proper term, but I've been saying it a lot. And how do you connect platform like digital spaces like this um, to the real world? Like you have at the moment Facebook groups for neighborhoods, and you have next door, but the way that I see them is they're just a disconnected virtual space hanging in digital space that's not connected to the bricks of mortar. And it's just like, if we're honest, it's just people complaining about bad parking and lost cats and bad behavior. Whereas this is a place to improve your knowledge. So, for example, you can see all the venues in here. So you can see that at Henry's Bar tomorrow, there's a happy hour for San Jordi. You can be like, oh, I didn't know this existed. It's um, artist space there. They do some really cool events like film nights and things. And how it's gonna evolve is it's going to become a really collaborative platform. So up until now, what we've been doing is Townspot has been sourcing all of these events on here, but there are workflows now or user journeys um, into the app where people can screenshot from Instagram. I literally did this before, share to the Townspot app, and then it just gets uploaded into this space. And so eventually Townspot's going to become this data layer, hyperlocal data layer, but it has a UI because to be user friendly. But you can see here, this is kind of the direction of travel where it's going. You can add a source of the event if it's not there already, and so it becomes this Wikipedia style contributor, moderator, kind of like on Reddit as well. And then people will have profiles, how many spots you've had. You can earn XP. And so it's going to gamify that experience. Um, and the way that the last bit on this is the way that you can kind of think about Townspot as a platform is that you have really great event platforms like Eventbrite, Meetup, Luma, even the local government websites, which they do agendas and stuff on there. But Townspot sits across the top of them, like trying to knit it all together in sort of like trying to make community cool way and act like a friendly neighbor texting you of what's going on. And that's why you have like the vibe of a festival map or a lineup, so you can come into here and you can create your own lineup for the week, and then these will be town pages. So it's Wikipedia pages
Mm.
at the moment. If you go on Wikipedia for a neighborhood, they're really rubbish. They don't take you further than just the history. This is trying to be that plus a lot more. And it doesn't really exist on this hyperlocal level at the moment. So that's it in essence. We're going to open
Amazing.
it across the whole of Barcelona very shortly. So you'll be able to play Townspot, you'll be able to contribute, and you'll be able to walk around Barcelona, take a picture of a flyer, spot it on the calendar, share it with your mates, go to the events. So that's what I mean when I say explosion of culture.
Right. Yeah, I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, what did V1 look like? Just explain how you did produce the WhatsApp newsletter. I mean, that's the initial thing, no? Like the initial product. You don't have to kind of showcase anything specifically,
Yeah,
but
the V1 was very, very similar to what it looks like at the moment. An emoji, a title, a description, a link to the event source, and it was yeah, basically just a WhatsApp message that was sent into a group, and that grew to about 1,000 people where I was living. And I thought, there's something here, but I need to stop and figure out how to scale it. And that's taken
yeah,
5 years. From business model point of view, but also just tech and stuff like that. And real fun fact is that I actually killed Townspot in 2024, 2024 maybe. Yeah, yeah. Just quit my job and then I was like, I'm done with Townspot. It's not working. So we just had the app at that point, and I didn't have the skills to code at that point. And then when this abundance of opportunities happened in terms of the LLMs, as soon as it was possible, I started coding, and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn to code properly. And then the models just getting better and better and better until you see like it's across web, it's automated newsletters, automated WhatsApp newsletters, from sharing from the newsletter, and then like mobile app, um, and like database and API and CLI, got like a whole MCP set up and all the buzzwords and things like that. So yeah, it's cool.
The community is like, ooh, you want to show me the setup. Right,
Yeah,
well,
yeah, it's
we can jump to that quite quick. But
yeah.
like, what was the team? What was your dev process? Or like, how did you actually build shit before you learned to code? 'Cause I'm pretty sure you were working with some people, or was it just a scraping problem that you had
Yeah,
someone
so
employed?
I think when 2023, I think it was at the start of 2023, managed to get some funding from Camden Council, which is the local government, one of the local governments, one of 32 in London. 32, London's kind of like its own country in itself. It's got loads of different districts. So Camden is one of them, and that's where I started it in one of those neighborhoods within there. Um, Camden has about 18 neighborhoods in there, but I managed to get access to a one-off funding grant, and that was I think about £15,000 for one area. And then I had a friend in Barcelona, English guy as well, and he helped build. Well, he built the version one and set up the whole server, set up the code base, set up the mobile app on Expo. Web platform didn't exist at that point. That came later. I built all of that. But that was really helpful for him to set up the. I have another friend, another software developer who worked at Travel Perk and stuff, if you know that company in Barcelona. And he always talks about the grooves in software engineering. So he's always like, yeah, it's all about at the start of a project setting up your grooves and where you're going to put stuff, you know how big your file sizes are going to be, what's your folder structure going to be like, what's your database going to look like, and once you've got all those almost like rooms of a house sorted, then you can kind of start putting stuff in the rooms a lot easier. And so it was really useful for Will to set up the server and stuff because I think I wouldn't have had ultimate confidence in myself to do that, and I'd still be questioning it to the today about whether the server's set up properly. You know, simple things. I don't know how technical everybody is on this call, but simple things in terms of like separating the services in the back end, it's Node.js, from the roots, and so that you've got the business logic in one place, and you've got the roots, which is just like the doorways into the services in another layer. And so it's a lot easier for the LLM model to understand where all that is, you know. And so
Yeah.
that he'd set up the almost like the template, and then it was able to refer to that. And I think we all know that these AI models are best when they have something to refer to. Um,
Well, I mean, yeah, considering you're an architect, I'm sure you enjoyed that process of like
yeah,
architecting. Like, what does this look like? What's the mental model?
yeah, it's essentially like I used to give onboarding talks at ThoughtWorks, which is this consultancy. I worked at London, like worldwide software engineering consultancy. So I
Yeah,
was doing a lot.
they're here in Barcelona. I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure.
exactly. And I did the design. I was one of the guys who did the design onboarding talk, and it was all about. There's this really corny phrase is that everyone's a designer, and they are because we're all designing stuff now. But it's really about. I think now there are a few different components on there. It's you've got to be a really good systems designer and systems thinker because you've got to visualize a lot of these, as I use the analogy again, the rooms in the house and where they go. And then you've also got to have really good judgment calls on what you're actually building. So that's product. And then you've got to have a bit of taste, everyone's calling it these days, in terms of what it looks like and essentially put it looks fashionable but not too trendy and more timeless. And there's all these different facets of stuff, but yeah, I think being a designer really, really helps with that. And I've kind of sat in my office chair uh, over the past year or so, and just been really grateful for all this technological advancement that has sort of moved around me, my profile. And it's just like I've often just laughed a few times because I'm just like, I can't believe this, But it's really interesting because I think it's Mr. Bezos at Amazon. He said for any business, you want to pick something that has been around for the test of time, like forever, essentially. So he goes into commerce. Commerce was happening in ancient Greek times, probably in the forums and things like that, in Roman times. People have always traded, and so design has always existed as well. And so it's kind of interesting the fact that software engineering was only brought around last century. And so the fact that we're really surprised that it's kind of being abstracted even further, it shouldn't be a surprise really. But then when you've got design as the core pillar that goes back like thousands of years, especially architecture, it's like you're not going to get rid of it.
No, I think at the end of the day, it's like building experiences. I don't know, they're those things of we're always looking to if I say build an experience, whether it be digital, physical, whatever. So no, I mean I think you're really well placed to be fair because you got the design chops. I've got some question. Well, I had one question, and then I want to go under the hood if I may.
Yeah.
But one was about what was the process of going from web app to mobile app? You were web app first, is that right?
No, it was mobile at first. And
Right.
so
Okay.
if you think about so the journey is WhatsApp newsletter in one hyperlocal neighborhood of population of 15,000 people. Then it was, okay, how do we scale this? Everyone's asking for it in different neighborhoods. I have no idea. Okay, let's build a mobile app because my mate was good at building mobile apps and it seemed like the next evolution from the WhatsApp newsletter. And then we got the funding to do that. And what was funny about that is that like what everybody loves the WhatsApp. Everybody just likes having information delivered to them straight away, you know. That's why newsletters are very successful as well. The mobile app was a really good luxury item. People see them as luxury items
Hmm.
and a bit more of a validator to an idea. So when you've got a mobile app, everyone's like, wow, this is a proper platform. Wow, this is cool. I'm going to put my money on this. Whereas I think at the time, if we would have just done a web app, then we might not have got the funding because websites are seen to the outside people from tech, they're seen as a bit cheaper. You know, people can do
Yeah, yeah,
websites easy and pop that up. But to mobile app, you've got it in the Apple Store. And so
yeah.
that's how it happened. And it
The
was
boomers love it. The
yeah, and it
boomers
was a
love
natural
it.
evolution of things going from WhatsApp to mobile app. Because the concept as well, like it was around which I can pop up the mobile app as well and show you. It's meant to feel like a festival app, but for your neighborhood. So you know when you go to Primavera or Sonar or whatever or any of these festivals, it's got your lineup of events and then it's got a map, like I just showed you before. So that it was like it fit really well. But the mobile app, people don't. It's only what I've found out is it's only for power. I call them power users because a lot of people just want that email sent to them. We've only got WhatsApp in one neighborhood now. It's just email everywhere. And people just want the newsletter. Like 80% of people just want an email sent to them with the listings and then the option to go on the calendar on the web. And if they're power users, they'll use the mobile app. So the data when we were doing the mobile app wasn't that great, and that's why I killed Townspot. And then like the web is just being an absolute game changer for a discovery surface with SEO and
Yeah, and I
everything.
suppose you've probably got an SEO play there or
Oh yeah, for sure.
GEO,
And what's really interesting about that as well, because um, design wise, if you gave me a brief right now to say, Mike, can you come up with a hyperlocal event platform or hyperlocal event listings platform? I would not design it like Townspot at all. It would look like a Luma. I'd just go to Luma and be like, that kind of
Mm.
works. But what's really interesting is that the design language has come back from WhatsApp and it's also come back from a truly mobile first experience. And so designing it for mobile app was really, really helpful first. And then web app, I was able to just, it's not usually a lot of people design websites first and collapse them down into mobile view, but this was expanding out and it's really helped and it's kept the simplicity that everybody loves and this calm space and real sort of authenticity of the platform, I'd say. This is the feedback that I get from people.
Well, I
You know,
mean,
from
that's
incentive
why I think it's
design.
good building mobile first because it does force you to be clean, minimal. Right, can we have a look? Let's go to the next phase, which would be because I'm conscious of time. Can we
Yeah.
have a look at, well, talk about technically maybe how you build, something like that, maybe. What stack you're using. Are there any MCPs or skills or kind of certain things that you do that you found actually this works better than it did? I don't know. Kind of go to that side of the conversation if you can.
Yeah, sure. So let me just see if I've got some. let me just share my full screen and then we can go through some stuff.
And we can also just now judge you on your tray icon. Oh no, you're all right. I
What
I've
great
got
icon.
loads of tray icons, and so whenever I share my full screen, I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
oh,
I'm going to share this with you all afterwards. I've just collated some notes today on a lot of this stuff, which was thought was
good.
would be interesting for a lot of you. Before going into the building stuff, I think this is really important because I don't separate them both. I think design, like product and design, is now everything's just come to a head in terms of it's all product and we're all builders, right? And so this for me is like the most important takeaway that I'd like you to go away with is that this is the iceberg of design, I call it, and it's the hidden foundation of design. And so what people think design is or product is typically like, a lot of this Claude design that's come out um and like V0 and Google Stitches and stuff like that. It's really the sharp end that most people see. It's really the UI design of everything. This stuff under the water, which you don't see of products, is like vitally important. And this is like in architecture school, I was grappling with this concept of a concept for like we did a whole semester on it at university because it was so conceptual in terms of thinking about what it was. But essentially, it's about making sure that your story, your product has a story behind it, a narrative, it has a purpose, it has a like an actual human need. And this stuff is just vitally important to get the foundations of that right. So I just wanted to flash that up to show you that the design is a lot more than what you can see at the sharp end of everything. Um, and I think a lot of people are becoming aware of that. And I saw that Anthropic are now hiring even more product managers, for example, because product managers have become really valuable with the output. Uh, and then this is really interesting. Like this is the code churn of Townspot, so it really maps out the past like year or so in terms of this is additions and deletions of the code base. And so this just shows how much it's ramped up recently. So it was really good last year, kind of using, and this is I'll go into tool chat now. So you kind of using back here was I did a 7-day challenge of building a SaaS platform, and I live streamed it on YouTube to no one, and it was it
That's
was
right, brother. That's right.
yeah, and it was I was just using ChatGPT as a sidecar and just building it, and I'd bought a boilerplate off the internet and stuff like that. And then Cursor and Windsurf came along, didn't they? So started using like my favorite tools around this point were I started with Cursor around this point, um and I can't remember what it was. And I was using, I think, Claude Sonnet for ages, 3.5, and then 3.7 thinking for all of this. And then I moved across to Windsurf. I've always been a bit edgy with my tool choices. Everyone seems to be going one way and I'm going the other. People say, I've had someone in the past saying, you're always zagging, aren't you, Mike? Everyone zigs and you zag. But I was using Windsurf because I just loved the harness that Windsurf had. They did some magic in there. I don't know what happened. And so whatever 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 model you used in there, it was just producing really good outcomes. And what I meant by that is like round about this time, if anybody was building at this time, you remember how awful it was because it would just change like a whole bunch of code in your code base. Whereas like it just got a lot better and a bit more refined as the AI labs got a bit better. And then around about this point, November, this I'd call this time the secret time, unless you're actually building, because all the rest of the dev world found out about Opus and GPT around about Christmas when they had a bit of downtime. I was having great fun around this time. So GPT
Yeah.
5.2 came out. I was still in Windsurf and then Opus, and I was like, holy shit, it's one-shotting everything. And so you can see my code output just completely increased. And I was still using an IDE at this point. And this is a really good journey to show you how I went from IDE to terminal, and I'll show you the terminal and how I work at the moment. And then essentially the models just got better. Obviously, Christmas happened, but around it, this is actually around Christmas. I had like 7 terminal windows open because I started using uh yeah Opus, and I was just going for it, and I I thought, wow, this platform that I've been dreaming of in my head, I can get to feature complete. And so I was spinning up loads of work trees and everything like that. It was mental. And so that's why this increased a lot here, and then it's kind of died down a bit as sort of I've got onto this getting on top of things period. And now I was using Claude for wait, what happened? Yeah, Windsurf up until a point, and then I paid for a month of Claude, and I'm probably going to upset people on this call because it seems to be become very factional. I just regretted it immediately with Claude because I went straight to the what I call the pure model without like in the terminal without the IDE, and it was just like it was a downgrade in terms of it just kept rushing off and doing stuff without me saying, "Can you go do it?" It felt very needy as a model, so it was asking me to do stuff all the time, like say yes to permissions and stuff, even though you can say dangerously skip permissions, but I just didn't trust it. And that's
Mm.
a really key part of working with these models, I think. Like weirdly, you do build up a bit of a relationship with them and you do end up trusting a certain model. And so I saw around like early January once I already locked in with Claude for a month. There was the OpenClaw guy, Peter, whatever his name is. He did a really good blog post on Codex, and he said like it's just absolutely, I think his words were goated or whatever. And I thought, okay, in February I'm going to move across to Codex, and I haven't looked back. I've just been on Codex since, and it's just really really good at technical back like the back end stuff. It's horrible at UI stuff, but I think that's where all these factions have come from, like the Claude camp and the Codex camp and all this sort of stuff, because it's like I think depending on what you're doing, what project you're working on, one is better than the other. So if you're doing a
What do
lot,
you use?
I use
Do you
code.
flip between?
No,
So
no, at the
you do
moment
Codex for front end?
I'm just using pure Codex at the moment. Yeah. And I plan to start using Claude or something when I start to be layering on a bit more design polish. But what I've been doing is setting out the foundations and the piping and wiring of everything. So I've still been expanding the back end, you know, and Codex is just absolutely amazing for that. It just one shots everything. I really, really trust it. And yeah, it's excellent. So, so I'd say,
How do you think about let's say you're going to introduce a new feature, what does that look like? You start chatting, or do you just kind of like, do you voice to text, like talk to me,
yeah,
or do you
so
write out a spec?
So yeah, this is literally where I work every day now. Like I've graduated full to the terminal. I don't enjoy the fact that I've got loads of tabs up here at the moment. Like my what I try to do is I almost play whack-a-mole every day. So I'm trying to close as many as I can and hopefully they become a bit more ephemeral. But yeah, essentially if there's a work stream and it's related, so in here, what was I doing here? And sometimes I need to go back to here. Yes, I'm working on the mobile app in here. So this is one product, and so I'll have the simulator up, and I'm adding this new event flow, and you take photos of flyers and stuff, and pops up a form. So yeah, yeah, Matt, I'll just use Whisperflow, and so just starting a feature and then just like brain dump essentially. It depends where I am, like and what mood I'm in as well.
Hmm.
I can, you know, just bashing on the keyboard as well sometimes happens. But yeah, just doing that and it's got enough in its agents MD file that's called in Codex because you've got Claude MD, haven't you?
Yeah.
So it's got enough in there that I've just built up over time and that they're starting to call that the harness, aren't they? In terms of like the system prompt that you have for your model. And it's got enough in there to understand how I want to work with it. And I've crafted it to a point where it's good for me. And I think one of the inventors of Claude Code, is he called Brian or whatever, he said that these
Boris,
things, is it Boris? Yeah.
right?
That
There is a Boris, not Boris.
I think like what's good about these tools is they're very malleable in terms of like you can just craft them to how you want. And I'd like to give a big shout out to John Carmack, who if you don't know, he's like a legendary game developer. And he's the ghost of John Carmack has been helping me for a year. Because like I saw on Twitter somewhere it said the biggest gain you can get is put in your Agents MD or Claude MD file or system thing. It's like think like John Carmack. And basically, John Carmack is very pragmatic. He doesn't change that many things and he doesn't over engineer or overcomplicate, right? and he's just John Carmack has helped me no end. But also I've got like with Raycast, if you use Raycast, I've got some snippets set up where if I go exclamation mark D, it'll say don't implement anything, just discuss with me. So that's a really useful one that I have if I
Yeah.
truly don't want it to go off and do something. But to be honest, Codex is really good at just you just talking to it. You don't need to enter into a plan mode or anything like that. It just gets me, man. You know, just
Yeah, I get
gets
you.
me.
I get you.
So it's just a bit like with what I found with Claude is I really get a bit repulsed by maybe because in UX design and stuff, I try not to do it myself, is that Claude feels like it's being designed like a game, and I really don't like that because I don't like any products that are trying to get you addicted to something. Like this is addictive as it is because like you're building stuff and things like that. But the whole like blooping and maybe I'm just a miserable English guy, but blooping thing, all this, I was like, I don't like that. And it's not the ZX Spectrum. It's not a game. And the Codex for me just feels solid. Saying that, I'm gonna go back to Claude and probably Gemini for the front end when I start doing layering upon the polish and stuff like you should do in a good product process. You know, don't over engineer the UI at the start. You don't need pretty design at the start. You need to work out the product first.
What do you, because you've got a mobile app, you've got a web app, you've got some back-end processes. What how are you running Codex? Are you trying to like have you just got one parent folder and then it all exists? So have you kind of got it separate? What's the architecture look like?
Uh, open Finder at local dev. Let's see. So essentially, this is just an example of me doing everything through the terminal. So I even asked it to open the browser and everything like that. But essentially, it's in a Townspot apps. I think it's called a multi-repo. It's not a mono-repo because it's not one Git, but it's a multi-repo where
Hmm.
it's got all the different repos in there. And
So
yes,
you don't even, I mean, I find myself, for example, I still like working in VS Code or like a cursor because there's something about seeing the files, even though I realize I never go into those files and I never even look at the content. But I don't, there's something weird about me kind of wanting to see them. I don't know if you just now the product well enough and the structure well enough that you're like, yeah, it's fine. I don't really need that anymore.
yeah, essentially, I think that what I've noticed is, and that's why I wanted to show you that timeline of code churn and stuff. You just become more trusting of the model, essentially, and trusting of what it's doing, and you've got enough system prompts in there that you're able to get it to commit and do good commit messages and all this sort of stuff. So I just really trust it. But I do have, to answer your question, I do have this VS Code set up as well. So I've got all my repos here.
Oof,
Then I can
hello.
then I can see the I can see like if I want to come and look at the repos, I look at them. But this is really annoying as a product because it's sucking quite a lot of RAM on my machine. And I'm actually
Ah,
just I want to build something which just shows me the Git tree. But by often like if I manually start the mobile up or the server or whatever, I'll do it in here and then go back to the terminal. But each product has its own repo, yeah.
repo. Okay.
And
What's
go
good?
on. But well, was good about I think uh, what I like about Codex at the moment is the fact that I've just started that up at Mike G, so it's not even in the Townspot apps folder, but I can just talk and it'll go exactly, it knows exactly where to go. It's got some memory in it that it'll go there, whereas Claude might have changed quite a lot, but I had to, I was joking that Claude felt like, if you've seen the film Memento, with Guy
Yeah,
Ritchie,
yeah, yeah.
forget stuff and he has to have those Polaroid. I just felt like I was working with something that kept forgetting, but this just remembers everything. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
so that.
You're a fanboy. I get it. I get it. I get the
No,
Codex fanboy.
no, this is, let me just clarify this. It works for the situation that I'm doing at the moment, and it works really well. I know its limitations, and I also, uh, I also think it's really important at this stage when things are coming out all the time to try everything, personally and robustly to form your own opinion around it. It seems very like. people are just reading secondhand information on stuff and not trying these things out for themselves. And I think that you're leaving a lot of time on the table and losing a lot of time potentially. And I've done it throughout the year and a half when I haven't jumped across to a tool quick enough. And I'm just like, what was I doing? Like I've just wasted loads of time. I should have been using this tool way like ages ago, for example. So I think it's just like be really like almost force yourself to use new things. I think it's really important.
How do you do you run any testing, automated browser testing or anything like that?
Not automated browser testing, but I have a really good uh, deployment sequence. So I actually need to deploy the server now. So I'm just going to deploy the server. So what that does is I've got I've got a shell script. So basically, it's going to run the run the deploy scripts, and so I've got a huge test suite set
Hmm.
up, and people often do this in GitHub Actions, don't they, and things like that. But I've got a huge test suite set up, and so that's always getting added to, and so it runs the tests, and then it'll deploy it via the backend. The server is on Coolify and on the Hetzner, and so it then connects to Coolify API and deploys it, but only once it's passed through all these tests. And like I've got a client that has a really important submission flow. So I've got like smoke tests in there. So it'll literally create new events into the system and then deletes them and stuff. So this has become such an important and crucial part of everything, considering that the code, like code wise, I'm reviewing it and seeing what it's doing and seeing how much it's doing. But I truly trust the syntax that it's doing as well. And what else was I going to say? And yeah, that's just going to do it. And then when it's what's great about this is it's test if there are any failing tests, then it obviously fixes those tests. Whereas in 2017 at that education company that I told you about, we had a TV screen of all the tests that had been written, and they were meant to be doing test-driven development, and they were just all red. And, no one would fix those tests, and it's really, really,
Yeah.
really important t today to have a really, really good testing in place. And I'd say on that, one of the another really crucial thing I've seen on Twitter or X, the that I've used and it's been really valuable is the add into your system prompt to when you find when I report a bug, add a regression test around that so it doesn't happen again. So that's how the test suite starts building up. So I'll add a regression test. And something I started doing recently, which is really important, or which was really useful, is um, like once it's found a bug, I say look for any adjacent bugs or similar bugs across the code base in this area, and it usually picks
Mm.
out a few. And it's
Yeah.
really really good, and it'll write tests for that and stuff. So it's
Yeah. Super smart.
with the code base and the platform being so big, and it's got
Yeah.
like massive surface area. I'm building something at the moment that in the old world would have been like a 50-person team, I'd say.
Totally. Yeah.
So
No, I mean it's insanely impressive. The
there you go. Look,
here we go.
full server test suite passed, and that's how many tests we're on at the moment.
1,000 tests.
Exactly.
Madness. How was the
There you go. Live
uh,
deploy.
there we are, deployed on
Not
the
even
call.
scared.
Yeah. Is the we'll have to do a session on. I've got a few people in the community wanting to about Hetzner and Coolify
Hmm.
running your own kind of deployment kind of on your own server, European servers. So we'll have to let's not go into too much detail about that now, but I really want to learn more about that myself.
Yeah.
Um, talk last bit because I'm conscious I got running out of time. I didn't want to overshoot, but the so this is the technical bit. So now you're shipping it. Now,
Mhm.
how does it work from a business model or
Yeah.
type of customer? Like, how do you put food on your table with this? It might not be fully on the table, but what does that look like?
Yeah, so being a solo founder, it's pretty difficult. So essentially, what I've stupidly ended up doing is doing two of the hardest things, or two of the traditionally hardest things in software in startup world. Calendar SaaS, which is horrible because you've got time zones and daylight saving time and all this sort of stuff. And the other one is local event discovery. So Y Combinator to call it a tar pit because it's an attractive problem to solve. No one solved it, but then everyone finds there's no money in it. So the way that Townspot makes money at the moment is that we sell an integration to, for example, we go to submit. So we sell basically custom forms to publishers, and so there's a really popular newsletter in Edinburgh that has 30,000 subscribers, and he has this section on it called the community notice board. And so if you can imagine the email, and they click a link to submit to the community notice board. So it's kind of like a interactive part of his newsletter. It used to go to a Google form, but now it goes to this. And so people can add some news, they can add an event, community notice. So the event is really the powerful form because essentially, if you imagine when you put an event in your Outlook calendar or whatever, and it's got all those permutations of recurring events, this is where the complex logic comes in. And so it's essentially a calendar form, and people come in here and submit the events. So he pays monthly for that,
Hmm.
and it's a key piece of his infrastructure. And what's cool about that is that it not only goes into his admin dashboard, admin dashboard, and he can extract it and put it into his newsletter. And he absolutely loves it because it saved him so much time. Like he used to spend about 3 or 4 hours, I think, per day. Now he spends 5 minutes. And he basically comes into his Kanban board, all the submissions, he moves them around, which ones he wants to get, and puts them into his newsletter. So he's the news he can copy and stuff like that. So that's one product, and so that's connected to a newsletter, right? So it's automated in terms of it's all like pretty and in the format he wants. And then we're also doing an integration into Love Camden, which is uh, so this website is the local government in London. They have a What's On website, really, really nice. And so super cool. But then when you come to here and add an event listing, they have at the moment that goes to a Microsoft Office form. So it's a really dumb form. So they're going to move across next week to the Townspot form. And what's great about that is that we're going to be able to open up calendars in the rest of this district in London, and they're paying an annual fee for that as well. So I'm basically building up clients that way. The other way is that so that's kind of like what I call stage two of the business. Stage one has been we do managed calendars. So there's a property developer in Manchester. I've got a hard stop at the hour, by the way, just to let you know.
Yeah, yeah,
Got
same.
a
So
demo
let's
call.
cut it in 4 minutes max.
Yeah, so this apartment block in Manchester, super super luxurious. They sponsor or they pay Townspot to fill a calendar for an area. So this is the area of Manchester. Matt knows it pretty well, and yeah, so you've got basically we act as like a what's on guide for those residents and help them. They're really good at the building because everybody's renting there. It's about improving the user experience of the inhabitants there. So basically, they don't move out, and it's also about attracting people to go live in Swan Street House as well. It's like, look at us. During their sales process, they talk about we really care about the community and connecting you to where you live, and basically you having a good time. And so each week, they get the residents get every Tuesday they get an email with listings on there, and it's absolutely fantastic resource. So we're piloting that at one building at the moment, but they've got a portfolio of about 16, which we're hoping to roll across out to. But it just takes a long time with these big contracts because business to business. So you have to prove your value first. So I'm going to Manchester to do a survey soon. Um, and and then I've got a call after this with another resident management company for a really big property developer. And that's like stage one of the business, because it's bringing in cash, but it has a lot of operational overhead because I'm having to fill these calendars. So I have a team doing that.
Yeah.
Stage two is this infrastructure, but also getting like attracting sponsors to the calendars in Edinburgh. And stage three is really about growth. So it's kind of the 2010s version of grow as quick as possible, don't care about revenue. I want to get as many users on this platform as possible and it turn into a place where you can run ads and things. When it hits critical mass, people will throw money at you in terms of sponsorship and stuff. But that's a really, really long play. So that's the stage three.
Amazing. Well, look, I'm super bullish on like hyperlocal from the point of view of as the world gets automated, agents are running around. I think people are going to be searching for like people near me or things near me even more so than usual. So I've really I've just loved the product, or I love like the story, but also like I totally see it. Like every time my with my friends' parents, kids. It's like what's on near me for my family, that's like in Bourne, it's like super small neighborhood. So if you can solve that problem, amazing stuff. But I appreciate you coming on. Thanks from the community as well. And please come on again and talk about what was it, Hetzner and other things,
That's so
maybe you
cool.
want to talk
Right,
about
yeah.
next.
Happy to come on anytime. It's yeah, there's a lot more to share, I guess. But I'll share this
Yeah,
GitHub
share
link.
that kit gist. Yeah, that sounds great.
It's got a lot of stuff in there. But yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you. Thank you, man.